Teen girl delivers a baby with reptile features. How is this even possible? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The dim glow of the hospital's emergency room flickered against the cold, sterile walls as the sound of frantic footsteps echoed through the halls. Nurses rushed to prepare a delivery room, their faces drawn with a mix of urgency and confusion. It was an unusual night, even for St. Mary's, the small-town hospital where shifts typically passed with a routine calm. But tonight was different. Lily Martin, just 17 years old, was wheeled through the double doors, her pale face contorted in pain. She clutched her swollen belly, her breathing shallow and quick. Her dark hair clung to her sweat-drenched forehead as she let out a groan. "We need a room now," one of the nurses barked as they maneuvered the wheelchair down the corridor. "She's fully dilated, and the contractions are less than a minute apart." The attending physician, Dr. Howard, hurried alongside them, his brow furrowed with concern. He had delivered hundreds of babies in his 20 years of practice, but something about this case had everyone on edge. Lily's prenatal checkups had been normal until the final ultrasound 2 weeks ago. Dr. Howard had reviewed the scan multiple times, struggling to make sense of what he saw. There had been anomalies. The baby's skeletal structure showed strange irregularities, and its movements were unusually rapid, almost unnatural. The findings had been so bizarre that he'd considered sending them to a specialist in the city, but before he could make arrangements, Lily went into early labor. In the delivery room, the air was thick with tension. Lily lay on the bed, her body trembling with each contraction. She clenched the sheets tightly, her knuckles white. A nurse dabbed her forehead with a cool cloth, murmuring words of encouragement. "You're doing great, Lily," Dr. Howard said, his voice steady despite the unease gnawing at him. "Just a little longer." Lily whimpered, tears streaming down her cheeks. It hurts so much." "I know," the nurse soothed. "Just breathe. You're almost there." Dr. Howard positioned himself at the foot of the bed, his gloved hands ready to guide the baby into the world. He exchanged a quick glance with the assisting nurse, who nodded, her own apprehension hidden behind a professional facade. "All right, Lily," Dr. Howard said. "On the next contraction, I need you to push as hard as you can." Lily nodded weakly, her jaw clenched. When the contraction hit, she let out a guttural scream, bearing down with all her strength. The room seemed to hold its breath as Dr. Howard leaned forward. "I see the head," he announced. "One more push, Lily. You've got this." Lily's scream grew louder as she gave one final push. A moment later, the room was filled with a sound none of them expected, not the cry of a newborn, but a high-pitched screech that sent chills down their spines. Dr. Howard froze, his eyes widening as he stared at the infant cradled in his hands. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The baby's skin was a pale pink, but patches of it shimmered with iridescent scales that caught the harsh fluorescent light. Its tiny hands ended in sharp, claw-like fingers, and its piercing green eyes blinked rapidly, their slit-like pupils dilating as they adjusted to the brightness. The nurses gasped, stepping back instinctively. One of them crossed herself, whispering a prayer under her breath. What is that?" one of them stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's her baby," Dr. Howard said firmly, though his voice wavered. He quickly wrapped the infant in a blanket, shielding it from the shocked stares of the room. "Get me the pediatric team." "No." The nurse hesitated, glancing at Lily, who was lying motionless on the bed, her chest heaving as she struggled to catch her breath. "Did we?" "Now," he repeated, his tone brooking no argument. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Is my baby okay?" she croaked, her voice hoarse. Dr. Howard hesitated, glancing at the bundle in his arms. "The baby is unique," he said carefully. "But it's healthy. That's the most important thing." "I want to see him," Lily said, her voice gaining strength. Dr. Howard hesitated again, then reluctantly handed the infant to her. The room fell silent as Lily looked down at her baby for the first time. Her expression shifted from exhaustion to awe as she took in his unusual features. "He's beautiful," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. She brushed a trembling finger against his scaled cheek, and the baby let out a soft coo, nuzzling into her touch. The nurses exchanged uneasy glances, but Lily didn't notice. All she saw was her son, her perfect, precious son. "I'm going to name him Kai," she said softly, cradling him close. "My little Kai." The peace didn't last long. Outside the delivery room, whispers and murmurs began to spread among the hospital staff. Word of the unusual baby traveled quickly, and soon, the hallway was abuzz with speculation. Some were curious, others horrified. By the time Lily was moved to a recovery room, the hospital's administration had gotten involved. The head of the hospital, Mr. Edwards, called an emergency meeting with Dr. Howard and the pediatric team. "This is unprecedented," Mr. Edwards said, pacing the room. "We need to handle this delicately. If the media gets wind of this..." Dr. Howard frowned. "Our priority should be the well-being of the mother and child, not public relations." "And I agree," Mr. Edwards said, "but we can't ignore the potential consequences. People are going to have questions, scientists, reporters, maybe even the government. We need to decide how we're going to respond." As the discussion continued, Lily sat alone in her room, rocking Kai in her arms. She could hear the faint murmurs of hospital staff outside her door, but she blocked them out, focusing entirely on her son. She didn't care what anyone thought or said. Kai was hers, and she would do whatever it took to protect him. The next morning, Lily woke to find a nurse standing at her bedside, her expression hesitant. "Good morning," the nurse said quietly. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Lily admitted. "But okay." The nurse glanced at Kai, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. "He's remarkable," she said cautiously. Lily smiled, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "He's perfect." The nurse hesitated again before speaking. "There's been some interest in your case. The hospital is receiving calls from people asking about Kai." Lily's smile faded. "What kind of people?" "Scientists, reporters, even some government agencies," the nurse admitted. "The administration is trying to keep things under control, but it's only a matter of time before this becomes public." Lily's grip on Kai tightened. "They can't take him away from me." "No one's taking him," the nurse assured her. "But you need to be prepared. Things might get difficult." Lily nodded, her resolve hardening. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: she would fight for Kai, no matter what. By the time the sun began to set over the small town, the hospital had become a fortress of activity. Word of Kai's birth had somehow slipped beyond the sterile walls of St. Mary's. Outside the hospital, reporters had begun gathering, their cameras flashing and microphones at the ready. Inside, the staff worked feverishly to maintain order, but the whispers and curious glances were impossible to ignore. Lily sat in her hospital room, her face pale but determined. Kai lay nestled in her arms, his tiny chest rising and falling as he slept. His scales shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights, and Lily couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful he was. To her, he wasn't strange or frightening, he was her son, and she loved him with a ferocity that surprised even herself. The door to her room creaked open, and Lily's heart jumped. She turned to see her mother, Marjorie, standing in the doorway. Marjorie's face was a mixture of shock, confusion, and something Lily couldn't quite place. Fear, perhaps. "Mom," Lily said softly. Marjorie hesitated before stepping inside, her eyes immediately locking onto the bundle in Lily's arms. "Is it true?" she whispered. Lily stiffened. "Is what true?" Marjorie's voice wavered. "That your baby, that he's not normal?" Lily's jaw tightened, and she pulled Kai closer. "He's perfectly normal. He's my son." Marjorie took another step forward, her hands trembling. "Lily, I don't understand. How could this happen? What is he?" "He's Kai," Lily said firmly. "And he's mine." Marjorie's face crumpled, and she sank into the chair by the bed. "Lily, people are talking. The whole town knows. There are reporters outside. Scientists are calling the hospital. This isn't normal. It isn't safe." Lily's eyes flashed with defiance. "He's my baby, Ma. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to protect him." Marjorie looked at her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "I just don't want you to get hurt." "I'm already hurt," Lily said quietly. "But I'll be fine. Kai will be fine. The next morning, the hospital administrator, Mr. Edwards, called Lily into his office. She carried Kai in her arms, her heart pounding as she walked through the hallways. People stopped to stare, their whispers following her like shadows. Inside the office, Mr. Edwards sat behind a large mahogany desk, his expression grim. Dr. Howard was there as well, his face lined with worry. "Lily," Mr. Edwards began, "thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." Lily sat down, holding Kai protectively against her chest. "What's this about?" Mr. Edwards exchanged a glance with Dr. Howard before speaking. "As you're probably aware, news of your son's birth has spread. The hospital is receiving an unprecedented amount of attention. Reporters, scientists, even government officials, they all want answers." Lily's grip on Kai tightened. "And what are you going to tell them?" Mr. Edwards sighed. "We've done our best to keep your information private, but it's only a matter of time before someone digs deeper. We need to discuss how to proceed." "There's nothing to discuss," Lily said firmly. "Kai is my son, and I won't let anyone take him from me." Dr. Howard leaned forward, his tone gentle. "Lily, no one here wants to take Kai away. But you need to be prepared. This situation is unprecedented. People are going to ask questions." "Let them ask," Lily said. "I don't owe anyone an explanation." Mr. Edwards cleared his throat. "We understand your position, but we also have to consider the hospital's reputation and resources. If this continues to escalate, it could become unmanageable." Lily stood, her eyes blazing. "Then I'll leave. Kai and I don't need to stay here." "Lily," Dr. Howard said, his voice filled with concern, "please don't make any rash decisions. You and Kai are safer here, at least for now." But Lily shook her head. "You're wrong. The only way we'll be safe is if we get as far away from here as possible." Later that day, Lily packed her belongings and prepared to leave the hospital. She called her best friend, Mia, who arrived within minutes, her small car idling outside the emergency exit. The two of them worked quickly, slipping out of the building unnoticed while the reporters gathered at the main entrance. As they drove away, Lily glanced back at the hospital, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she had to protect Kai at all costs. Mia took Lily and Kai to her apartment, a cozy one-bedroom in the quieter part of town. It wasn't much, but it was safe, for now. "You can stay here as long as you need," Mia said, setting up a makeshift crib for Kai in the corner of the living room. "Thank you," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Mia shrugged, trying to play it cool, but her eyes were filled with worry. "You'd do the same for me." As the days passed, Lily adjusted to her new reality. Caring for Kai was both exhausting and rewarding. He was unlike any baby she'd ever seen, stronger, more alert, and incredibly curious. His piercing green eyes followed her every movement, and his tiny hands clutched at her fingers with surprising strength. Despite his unusual appearance, Kai was undeniably a baby. He cooed when Lily sang to him, cried when he was hungry, and fell asleep in her arms with a soft, contented sigh. To Lily, he was perfect, but the outside world wasn't so forgiving. News of the lizard baby continued to spread, fueled by leaked photos and sensational headlines. Some people were sympathetic, praising Lily for her courage and maternal instinct. Others were cruel, calling for Kai to be taken away and studied like an experiment. Lily avoided social media and news outlets, focusing instead on her son. But she couldn't avoid the growing attention forever. One evening, as she rocked Kai to sleep, Mia entered the room with a worried expression. "Lily," she said, holding up her phone. "You need to see this." Reluctantly, Lily took the phone and watched the video Mia had pulled up. It was a news segment featuring a prominent scientist who claimed to have evidence that Kai's condition was the result of a genetic anomaly. The scientist called for Lily to come forward and allow Kai to be studied for the advancement of science. Lily's stomach turned. "They're treating him like a science project," she whispered. Mia placed a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to listen to them, Lily. Kai is your son, not theirs." "I know," Lily said, her voice trembling. "But they're not going to stop, are they?" Mia didn't have an answer, and the silence that followed was heavy with uncertainty. The days stretched into weeks, and Lily's resolve was tested more than she ever thought possible. While she stayed hidden at Mia's apartment, the world outside buzzed with curiosity, fear, and intrigue about Kai. Every day brought new challenges, reporters knocking on doors, neighbors whispering, and the constant fear that someone would find them. Despite it all, Lily focused on Kai. He was growing quickly, too quickly. By the time he was a month old, Kai had the strength of a toddler. He began to crawl across the floor with alarming speed, his small claws tapping softly against the wooden boards. He also started making sounds that weren't quite human, soft chirps and trills that seemed to express his emotions more clearly than crying. Mia, ever the supportive friend, helped Lily adapt to Kai's unique needs. "I think he likes music," Mia said one evening, watching as Kai tilted his head toward the sound of a soft melody playing on the radio. Lily smiled, her heart swelling with love. "He's amazing, isn't he?" "He is," Mia agreed. "And so are you, Lily. I don't know how you're doing this." "I don't have a choice," Lily said simply. "He's my son. I'll do whatever it takes." One day, while Kai was napping, there was a knock at the door. Lily's heart leapt into her throat as Mia peered through the peephole. "It's a woman," Mia whispered. "She doesn't look like a reporter." "Who is it?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. The woman outside cleared her throat. "My name is Dr. Evelyn Carter," she said, her voice calm and professional. "I'm a pediatrician. I'm here to help." Lily exchanged a wary glance with Mia. "What do we do?" she whispered. Mia shrugged. "She doesn't seem threatening. Maybe hear her out?" Lily hesitated, then opened the door just enough to see the woman's face. Dr. Carter was in her early 40s, with kind eyes and a reassuring smile. She held up her hands, palms open. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said. "I just want to offer my help." "Why should I trust you?" Lily asked, her voice edged with suspicion. Dr. Carter nodded, as if expecting the question. "Because I've seen the way the media is treating you, and it's not fair. You and your baby deserve care and respect, not exploitation. I'm here to give you that." Lily studied her for a long moment before stepping aside. "Come in," she said cautiously. Dr. Carter spent the next hour examining Kai while Lily hovered anxiously nearby. The doctor's movements were gentle, her demeanor calm. She took notes but didn't ask intrusive questions, focusing instead on Kai's health and development. "He's perfectly healthy," Dr. Carter said finally, setting down her stethoscope. "Remarkably so, actually." Lily exhaled in relief. "Thank you." Dr. Carter hesitated before continuing. "Lily, I know you're scared, and I know you don't trust many people right now. But you don't have to go through this alone. I want to help you." "How?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with skepticism. "I can provide medical care for Kai," Dr. Carter said. "Privately. No records, no reports. Just care. And I can connect you with others who can help. Legal experts, advocacy groups, people who can protect you and your son." Lily's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. Dr. Carter smiled. "Because every child deserves a chance. And every mother deserves support." Over the next few weeks, Dr. Carter became an invaluable ally. She visited regularly, bringing supplies and advice. With her help, Lily began to feel more confident in her ability to care for Kai. She even started to believe that they might have a future beyond the chaos of their current situation. But the world outside remained relentless. News outlets continued to run stories about the lizard baby, and online forums buzzed with speculation. Some people called for Kai to be taken into government custody, while others rallied around Lily, praising her courage and resilience. One evening, Mia showed Lily a social media campaign that had gone viral. The hashtag #ProtectKai was trending, with thousands of people sharing messages of support. "You've got a lot of people on your side," Mia said. "Maybe it's time to tell your story." Lily frowned. "You think I should go public?" Mia nodded. "If you don't, other people will keep controlling the narrative. This is your chance to show the world who you really are, and who Kai really is." Lily thought long and hard about Mia's suggestion. The idea of putting herself and Kai in the spotlight terrified her, but she also knew Mia was right. If she wanted to protect her son, she needed to take control of the story. With Dr. Carter's guidance, Lily agreed to do a televised interview with a trusted journalist. The interview was carefully planned to ensure her safety, with the location kept secret until the last minute. On the day of the interview, Lily dressed in a simple blouse and jeans, cradling Kai in her arms as the cameras rolled. The journalist, a woman named Rachel, began with a soft smile. "Lily, thank you for being here. I know this hasn't been easy for you." "It hasn't," Lily admitted. "But I want people to know the truth. Kai isn't a monster or an experiment. He's my son. He's a baby, just like any other baby." Rachel nodded. "Can you tell us about Kai? What has it been like raising him?" "It's been challenging," Lily said honestly. "But it's also been amazing. Kai is smart, curious, and full of life. He's not defined by his appearance, he's defined by who he is." The interview continued for nearly an hour, with Lily sharing her story and her hopes for the future. She spoke about the challenges she'd faced, the support she'd received, and her unwavering love for Kai. When the interview aired, it quickly went viral. Millions of people watched as Lily spoke with grace and determination, her bond with Kai shining through every word. Public opinion began to shift, with more people rallying behind her and demanding that she be left in peace. The interview also caught the attention of advocacy groups and activists, who reached out to offer their support. One group, led by a prominent civil rights lawyer, helped Lily file a restraining order against the more aggressive media outlets and scientists who had been harassing her. For the first time in months, Lily felt like she could breathe. One quiet afternoon, as Lily sat on Mia's couch with Kai in her lap, she watched him reach for a toy with his clawed hand. His scales glinted in the sunlight streaming through the window, and his bright green eyes sparkled with joy. "You're going to do incredible things one day," Lily whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what the future holds, but I promise I'll always be by your side." Kai cooed softly, his tiny fingers curling around hers. In that moment, Lily knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The weeks following Lily's televised interview brought a wave of relief and renewed purpose. Public sentiment had shifted significantly in her favor, with thousands of people championing her courage and her right to raise Kai in peace. Advocacy groups began working with her to ensure her privacy was respected and that any intrusive attempts to interfere with her life would be met with swift legal action. Despite the support, Lily remained cautious. She knew that not everyone shared her view of Kai as a beautiful, unique child. Threats and hateful messages still trickled in, and reporters continued to circle the story like vultures. But Lily also knew she wasn't alone anymore. With Mia, Dr. Carter, and the growing #ProtectKai movement behind her, she felt stronger than she had in months. Kai, meanwhile, continued to grow at an astonishing rate. At just 3 months old, he could crawl faster than most toddlers, his tiny claws giving him a surprising grip on almost any surface. His chirps and trills evolved into more complex sounds, and Lily began to notice patterns in the noises he made. It was almost as if he were trying to communicate in a language all his own. One afternoon, Lily sat on the floor of Mia's living room, watching as Kai explored the space. He moved with a mix of curiosity and precision, his bright green eyes darting around the room as he examined everything in sight. Mia, seated nearby, shook her head in amazement. "He's incredible," Mia said. "I've never seen anything like him." "Neither have I," Lily replied with a smile. "But he's also just my little boy." Mia grinned. "You're a great mom, you know that?" Lily's smile faltered slightly, and she looked down at her hands. "Sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm just doing my best to keep him safe." "And that's exactly what makes you a great mom," Mia said firmly. "You're doing everything you can for him, even when the world feels like it's against you." Lily nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude for her friend's unwavering support. One evening, as Lily was putting Kai to bed, she noticed something unusual. Kai had been fussing, his small body wriggling in her arms, but as soon as she began humming a lullaby, he stopped. His eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, it felt as though he understood every note she sang. Lily's voice faltered as she realized what was happening. Kai wasn't just listening, he was mimicking her melody. His trills and chirps matched the rise and fall of her voice, creating a hauntingly beautiful harmony. Tears welled in Lily's eyes as she continued to sing, her heart aching with love and wonder. "You're so special, Kai," she whispered. "The world doesn't understand you yet, but one day they will." As the months passed, Lily began to consider her next steps. She couldn't stay hidden in Mia's apartment forever, and while the public had largely rallied behind her, there were still risks. She wanted to give Kai a stable, happy life. A life where he could thrive without fear or judgment. One day, during a visit from Dr. Carter, Lily shared her thoughts. "I've been thinking about moving," she said. "Somewhere quiet, where Kai can grow up away from all this chaos." Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully. "That could be a good idea. Do you have anywhere in mind?" Lily hesitated. "Not really. I just know it needs to be far from here. A fresh start. I can help you look," Dr. Carter offered. "There are communities that prioritize privacy and safety. You wouldn't be alone." "Thank you," Lily said, her voice tinged with relief. "I just want what's best for him." "And you're doing exactly that," Dr. Carter said with a reassuring smile. With Dr. Carter's help, Lily found a small house in a remote town nestled in the mountains. The community was tight-knit but welcoming, and the house itself was perfect, cozy, quiet, and surrounded by nature. The move was bittersweet. Leaving Mia behind was difficult, but Lily knew it was the right choice for Kai. On the day they arrived, Lily stood on the porch with Kai in her arms, taking in the crisp mountain air. "This is it, Kai," she said softly. "Our new home." Kai cooed in response, his bright green eyes wide with curiosity as he looked around. Lily smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in months. Life in the mountains was exactly what Lily had hoped it would be. The community respected her privacy, and the natural surroundings gave Kai plenty of space to explore. As he grew, his unique abilities became more apparent. He could climb trees with ease, his small claws gripping the bark effortlessly, and his agility was unmatched. But what fascinated Lily the most was his growing intelligence. At just a year old, Kai could mimic words and gestures with surprising accuracy, and his understanding of the world around him seemed far beyond his age. Despite his differences, Kai was a happy, affectionate child. He loved cuddling with Lily, chirping softly as she read to him or sang him to sleep. And while his appearance still drew curious looks from the few neighbors who saw him, the community's respect for Lily kept any gossip to a minimum. One day, as Lily and Kai were walking through the woods near their home, they came across an older man sitting on a fallen log. He was whittling a piece of wood, his weathered hands moving with practiced ease. When he looked up and saw them, his eyes softened. "Good afternoon," the man said, his voice warm. "Out for a walk?" "Yes," Lily replied, her tone polite but cautious. "It's a beautiful day." The man nodded, his gaze shifting to Kai, who was perched on Lily's hip. "He's a curious little one, isn't he?" Lily tensed, ready for the usual questions or stares, but the man simply smiled. "Don't worry," he said gently. "I've seen enough in my life to know that the world is full of surprises. He's a gift." Lily's eyes widened, and she felt a lump rise in her throat. "Thank you," she said softly. The man nodded, returning to his whittling. "You take care of him, now. The world needs more people like you." As Lily walked away, her heart felt lighter. For the first time, she realized that not everyone saw Kai as an anomaly. To some, he was simply a child, unique, yes, but no less deserving of love and acceptance. That evening, as Lily tucked Kai into bed, she thought about the man's words. "You're a gift," she whispered, brushing a hand over Kai's soft, scaled cheek. "And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know that." Kai chirped softly, his bright green eyes closing as he drifted off to sleep. Lily sat by his bedside, watching him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. She didn't know what the future held, but she was no longer afraid. They had found their place in the world, and together, they would face whatever came next. Months passed, and Lily began to settle into a peaceful routine. Her mornings were spent preparing breakfast for Kai, who had grown into an energetic and curious toddler. His agility and intelligence continued to develop, and Lily marveled at how quickly he learned. Whether it was climbing a tree in their yard or imitating the chirping of birds, Kai approached everything with a sense of wonder that filled Lily's heart with pride. The townsfolk had also grown accustomed to Lily and Kai's presence. While they didn't see Kai often, the few neighbors who had encountered him treated him with a cautious but kind curiosity. They respected Lily's privacy, understanding that her circumstances were unique and that she wanted to raise her son without intrusion. One day, as Lily sat on the porch with a cup of tea, she noticed Kai playing with a small wooden toy that one of the neighbors had carved for him. He seemed fascinated by it, tilting his head and running his clawed fingers over its surface. "Do you like that, Kai?" Lily asked with a smile. Kai chirped in response, holding the toy up as if to show it off. Lily laughed softly, her love for him overflowing. He was growing so fast, too fast in some ways, and she often wondered what the future would hold for him. But for now, she was content to enjoy the quiet moments they shared. Later that afternoon, Lily decided to take Kai on a walk through the woods. The mountain air was crisp, and the leaves crunched underfoot as they strolled along a narrow path. Kai clung to her hand, his bright green eyes darting around as he took in the sights and sounds of the forest. As they rounded a bend, they came across a small clearing where wildflowers bloomed in vibrant colors. Kai let out an excited chirp and tugged at Lily's hand, pulling her toward the flowers. All right, Lily said with a laugh, letting him guide her. "You really love exploring, don't you?" Kai knelt down and carefully plucked a flower with his small claws, holding it up to Lily with a proud expression. Lily's heart melted as she took the flower from him. "Thank you, sweetheart. It's beautiful, just like you." They spent the next hour in the clearing, with Kai darting around to examine every flower, rock, and tree. Lily watched him with a mixture of awe and gratitude, marveling at how much joy he found in the simplest things. As the sun began to set, they made their way back home, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, it felt like they had truly found a place where they belonged. But that peace was interrupted later that evening when Lily received a phone call. The number was unfamiliar, and she hesitated before answering. "Hello," she said cautiously. "Ms. Martin," a woman's voice replied. "This is Rachel Miller. I'm a journalist. You might remember me from the interview you did a few months ago." Lily's grip on the phone tightened. "Yes, I remember. What do you want?" "I wanted to give you a heads up," Rachel said. "There's been renewed interest in your story. Some people are trying to track you down, claiming they have a right to study Kai." Lily's heart sank. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I respect you," Rachel said sincerely. "And I think you deserve to know what's happening. I can't stop them, but I thought you should be prepared." Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Thank you for letting me know." "Of course," Rachel said. "And if there's anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out." After hanging up, Lily sat in silence for a long moment, her mind racing. She had done everything she could to protect Kai, but it seemed like the world wasn't ready to let them live in peace. The next day, Lily reached out to Dr. Carter to discuss what Rachel had told her. They spoke over a secure video call, with Dr. Carter's face appearing on Lily's laptop screen. "I was afraid something like this might happen," Dr. Carter admitted. "People are naturally curious about what they don't understand, and unfortunately, that curiosity can be invasive." "What should I do?" Lily asked, her voice tinged with desperation. "I've tried so hard to keep us safe." "You're doing everything right, Lily," Dr. Carter said gently. "But it might be time to take additional precautions. Have you thought about legal action or working with advocacy groups to strengthen your protections?" "I don't want to draw more attention to us," Lily said. "But I also don't want to live in fear." Dr. Carter nodded. "It's a delicate balance, but you're not alone in this. There are people who support you and want to help. You just have to decide what's best for you and Kai." Lily sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I'll think about it." "Take your time," Dr. Carter said. "And remember, you're a great mom. Kai is lucky to have you." "Thank you," Lily said, her voice soft. "That means a lot." Over the next few days, Lily carefully considered her options. She spoke with Mia, who encouraged her to stay strong and reminded her of all the progress she had made. She also reached out to a lawyer who specialized in privacy cases, seeking advice on how to protect Kai's future. In the meantime, life in the mountains continued as usual. Lily tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for Kai, taking him on walks, reading to him, and singing him lullabies. But in the back of her mind, the threat of renewed scrutiny lingered, casting a shadow over their quiet life. One evening, as Lily sat on the porch watching the stars, Kai climbed into her lap and snuggled against her. His scales were cool to the touch, and his soft chirps filled the night air. "We'll be okay, Kai," Lily whispered, wrapping her arms around him. "No matter what happens, we'll figure it out together." Kai cooed softly in response, and Lily felt a renewed sense of determination. She had faced countless challenges since his birth, and she had overcome every one of them. This was no different. As days turned into weeks, Lily's determination grew stronger. She knew that to ensure Kai's safety, she had to take proactive steps. After much deliberation, she contacted the advocacy group that had reached out to her months earlier during the #ProtectKai campaign. The group, led by a passionate lawyer named Clara Davis, specialized in protecting families facing unusual circumstances. Clara arrived at Lily's mountain home one crisp morning, carrying a leather briefcase and an air of quiet confidence. She greeted Lily warmly before settling into the kitchen, where they discussed the best course of action. "I've been following your story since the beginning," Clara said, her tone measured. "I want you to know that what you've done for Kai is extraordinary. But the world doesn't easily accept what it doesn't understand." Lily nodded, her hands wrapped tightly around her mug of tea. "I just want him to have a normal life." "And he can," Clara assured her. "But we need to take steps to protect that normalcy. The first thing we'll do is file a legal order to prevent any unauthorized attempts to contact or study Kai. This will give you some breathing room." "And if people don't listen?" Lily asked. "Then we'll escalate," Clara said firmly. "But I'm confident we can build a strong case." "You're not alone in this, Lily." For the first time in a long while, Lily felt a sense of relief. With Clara's guidance, she began to see a path forward, a way to shield Kai from the relentless curiosity of the outside world. While Clara worked on the legal front, Lily focused on creating a safe and nurturing environment for Kai. She enrolled him in a small playgroup within the community, carefully explaining his unique features to the other parents beforehand. To her surprise, they were understanding and even curious, eager to welcome Kai into the fold. At the first playgroup meeting, Lily watched nervously as Kai interacted with the other children. He was cautious at first, staying close to her, but gradually his natural curiosity won out. He crawled toward a small boy building a tower of blocks and let out a chirp of excitement. The boy looked up, his eyes widening slightly at Kai's appearance, but then he smiled and handed Kai a block. "Here, you can help." Lily's heart swelled as she watched Kai stack the blocks with surprising dexterity, his tiny claws gripping them carefully. The other children soon joined in, and within minutes, they were all laughing and playing together as if there were no differences between them. "He's fitting right in," one of the parents said, standing beside Lily. "You're doing a great job with him." "Thank you," Lily replied, her voice thick with emotion. "That means a lot." As the weeks passed, Kai's progress continued to amaze everyone around him. He was now walking, more like scurrying, and his ability to mimic sounds and words had advanced rapidly. He seemed to absorb information like a sponge, and Lily often caught him observing the world around him with an intensity that belied his age. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Kai pointed to the horizon and chirped, "Pretty." Lily's breath caught. It was the first time he had spoken a word so clearly, and her heart swelled with pride. "Yes, Kai," she said, pulling him into her arms. "It's very pretty." Kai rested his head against her shoulder, his small claws clutching her sleeve. In that moment, Lily felt a profound sense of gratitude, for Kai, for their life in the mountains, and for the people who had supported them along the way. But their peace was soon interrupted. One afternoon, as Lily was preparing lunch, she noticed a car pull up to the edge of her driveway. She froze, her pulse quickening as two men in suits stepped out and approached the house. Quickly, she scooped Kai into her arms and called Clara, who answered on the first ring. "Clara, there are men here. They look official." "Stay calm," Clara said, her voice steady. "Don't let them in. I'll handle this." Lily locked the door and waited, her heart pounding as the men knocked and called out to her. "Ms. Martin, we're with a research organization. We just want to talk." "No, thank you," Lily said firmly, her voice trembling. "Please leave." The men exchanged glances but didn't push further. They left after a few minutes, but the encounter left Lily shaken. When Clara arrived later that evening, she assured Lily that she was doing the right thing. "They had no legal right to approach you," Clara said. "I'll make sure they don't try this again." Lily nodded, holding Kai close. "I just want this to stop." "And it will," Clara promised. One step at a time. In the days that followed, Clara's efforts began to pay off. The legal order she had filed was granted, giving Lily and Kai additional protection. Any attempts to contact or study Kai without Lily's consent would now be met with severe legal consequences. The advocacy group also worked to raise awareness about Lily's situation, emphasizing her right to privacy and Kai's humanity. The public response was overwhelmingly supportive, with many people rallying behind the idea that Kai deserved to be treated like any other child. For the first time in months, Lily began to feel a sense of hope. The world was far from perfect, but it was beginning to understand that Kai wasn't a curiosity or an anomaly. He was a child, and he deserved to live his life without fear. One evening, as Lily tucked Kai into bed, she thought about everything they had been through. The challenges, the fears, the moments of joy and wonder. It had all shaped their journey, and it had brought them closer than she ever thought possible. "You're going to do great things, Kai," she whispered, brushing a hand over his soft, scaled cheek. "And I'll be right here with you every step of the way." Kai chirped softly, his green eyes gazing up at her with a trust that melted her heart. As he drifted off to sleep, Lily sat by his side, her resolve stronger than ever. No matter what the future held, she knew they would face it together.